From a pragmatic perspective, I understand that Whitehawk has its own cyber risk program, and I've heard you both mention before that this is generally the right first step for every organisation, regardless of the organisation's size. So, Stu, would you mind explaining to us what is a cyber risk program, and where does cyber security fit within a cyber risk program approach?
Program that we have really is an end-to-end approach. We focus on the identification, prioritization, and the mitigation to the risks that are around the business itself, right? So it's less about doing a asset inventory. We don't go in and say, hey, did you configure this router correctly? So it's about the technology, but the focus is not on the technology. It's really about the business. So we start with how do you look to a bad actor? We do a very straightforward, very quick assessment, looking at how the organization appeared to the bad actors. Because if you're a bad actor and someone's door is open, I'm gonna go through that door instead of looking at a door with 5 locks on it, right? So we establish the vulnerabilities up front, we identify the risks, and then we categorize it or prioritize it based on the needs and the objectives of the business. One could be financial, one could be brand, one could be, they don't want to end up on the front page, right? So depending on the business or the business unit we're working with, they have different priorities. So we actually establish a roadmap to addressing those risks that are identified. And then from a mitigation standpoint, we do look at a step approach. Most companies are already behind on implementing risk practices that support their business needs.
Terry, are there any examples you can share where within a business you typically already embrace an outside-in approach to dealing with particular issues? Because I think by sharing an example, it might help us all better understand why adopting a cyber risk program approach isn't actually that unusual or that different to maybe how we do other things already within an organization.
The chief financial officer, right, of almost every company or organization has an annual audit of an outside firm that has nothing to do with your day in, day out business, so that they're truly looking with clear eyes. And you want that. What I find fascinating with a majority, frankly, of cybersecurity professionals, very smart, hardworking professionals, is they don't want the audit. They don't want a hacker view of their operation because 2 reasons. They are held accountable for everything to do with cyber risk, which isn't fair. And they are scared, right, at what will be found, and they already feel overwhelmed by the burden that the executive team has put on them. So what we recommend is with our cyber risk program, it reports to the executive team. It's not something that's just on the cyber lead or the CIO or the office manager. It's the executive team and or board. And then that way we're reporting to them, and it's all about, hey, you want to know these things, you want to address these things because you want to get to the next level, right? And you don't want to be the next hit on the front page.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I love that you raised the fact that most people are in effect, probably don't want to know what challenges they've got, and they're nervous to be told what vulnerabilities, for example, exist within their business, and potentially what looks good to the bad guys in cyberspace. But in any case, and Sue, I've heard you describe that before as deniability, if you like, including at an executive level, but also potentially even technical level. So Sue, would you mind explaining in your view, what are the risks of not embracing a cyber risk program approach? And do you have any analogies that you can share with us to maybe help us understand what risk we're taking here if we don't embrace this approach?
So the risk is that as an organization, you're denying the fact that there's risk. That's the bottom line, right? So if the analogy is as a company, you want to bring in revenue, you want to pay your employees and make profit for potentially your shareholders, right? So would any company leave their bank account open?
No.
Right? So it's the same concept. It's a little pedant or simple, but it's the same concept. Because
would they leave their office door unlocked? Would they put their files, their business files on the street? Would they leave their laptop on purpose on the train? That whole thing.
And I think it stems from looking at cyber as a technology problem or an IT problem. Cyber is a business problem that goes horizontally. It's not a vertical activity that's only in the IT house or the IT shop or the CIO or CISO shop. Cybersecurity is a business problem that spans every entity of the company, right? If you have no digital footprint, even on paper, you still need cyber. That's the bottom line, right? Because everyone still has to sign checks, pay their employees. So, I mean, that's a simple analogy, but hopefully that hits home with most folks.
A huge thank you to Terry Roberts, who is the CEO and founder of Whitehawk, Sue Kim, who is the COO and CTO of Whitehawk, and of course, Trent Primer, who is the head of trading at Barclay Pierce Capital. Thank you all very much for joining me today. I trust the audience enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. If you'd like to discover more about Whitehawk, please go on over to their website and please do check out the particulars of their cyber risk program approach. You've very clearly heard from them today as to their advice on how to take the right first step for your organization, regardless as to where you're at. And if you'd like to explore investment opportunities with Whitehawk, we encourage you to go and contact Barclay Pierce Capital.